So today is a dark day for the Canadian film industry, one of the grandfathers of the Canadian movie system, probably made one of the most important Canadian movies of the 1970s, Going Down the Road, which everybody watched and everybody enjoyed. It's a coincidental story of Maritimers going down the road, literally, to seek fame and fortune in Ontario. Don Shebib has passed away. Now, the career of Shebib was quite diverse. Now, according to CBC, his 1970 Best Picture winner at the Canadian Film Awards drew great acclaim internationally, and is a movie perennially recognized as one of the country's best. He died in hospital with family inside on Sunday at the age of 55. His son, music producer Noah 40 Shebib, told CBC News in an email. A cause of death wasn't announced. Shebib was working on a series of TV documentaries in the 1960s when Going Down the Road was conceived, with a screenplay written by William Fruit, his colleague at CBC's The Way It Is. Going Down the Road was made for just $87,000 and shot on 16 millimeter film. Its low budget and relatively inexperienced cast lended the film its cinema verite and often gritty feel. Nobody believed in the film, nobody. That's when the reaction to it was so good. I was overwhelmed by it, Shebib told CBC in 2011. Now, the film, screenwriter Fruit and lead actors Doug McGrath and Paul Bradley would win awards at the Canadian Film Awards, the forerunner to the Canadian Screen Awards. It was a key moment in Canada's nascent film industry, with future Toronto International Film Festival executive director Piers Hanley writing in 1978, Going Down the Road seemed to be our first step, tentative perhaps, but opening the floodgates to self-expression. Before this and The Rowdy Man, wasn't too many Canadian movies with the tax shelter era, what I call the Trudeau movie system. We became, more than just one category, and not just looking at Canadians, but looking at the different aesthetics, horror and action and romance and Quebecois, Acadian, West Coast. Now, it was added, George Melnick in 2004's 1 Years of Canadian Cinema, Canada's original road movie. Going Down the Road was named the sixth best Canadian film of all time by TIFF in 2015, and it was part of the inaugural film class of the Audiovisual Preservation Trust of Canada's Masterworks in 2000. Now, we did a previous podcast on the movie, and it's not something that all Americans or international viewers would get, but the fact of two, not say lower middle class, but poor Maritimers joined together to seek fame and fortune and using their favorite car to get there. But going to Toronto was like a different country to Maritimers. Now, the story tracks Pete and Joy, two poorly educated but enthusiastic dreamers who leave Cape Breton, the 11th province, for what they believed would be brighter prospects in Ontario's capital. They're coming up as a definite social movement, the same kind of thing as the Grapes of Wrath or the people coming out of Appalachia. The Montreal Gazette wrote in one of the first profiles of Shebib after the film's release. The film mixed just enough comedic moments, hijinks at work, nights carousing under the lights of Yonge Street, as a respite from the profound struggles of the characters. There's mind-numbing assembly line work at the bottling plant, depressing accommodation of flop houses and tiny apartments, a shotgun wedding, and an ill-timed pregnancy, and of course, buying a whole bunch of stuff on layaway and having it dumped back to the company in the street. Now, Pete and Joy are often the architects of their misfortune, their lives pocked by heavy drinking, a shaky work ethic, and casual misogyny. Young men get chewed up by the old cold concrete molars of late 60s Toronto, in the words of film critic and historian Jeff Pevier in his 2012 study of the film. Now, in addition to cinematographer Richard Leiderman that showcased Toronto on film for one of the first times, poignancy was lent by background songs from singer-songwriter Bruce Cockburn. For a film with more than share of grim moments, Going Down the Road ironically has resonated through the years as much in Canadian comedy as drama. Its influence is felt in the hoser characters of shows like Foo Bar and Trailer Park Boys. Of course, it was parodied heavily by John Candy and Joe Flaherty and SCTV. It has to be seen to believe. Now, Shebib, again, born on January 27, 1938 in Toronto. His paternal grandfather was Lebanese, and his parents each lived in Atlantic Canada. Shebib grew up with a love of story, becoming a collector of comic books, and after not having a TV in the house until his teens, it made maximum impact. Now, as years went on, When he said he was 17 or 18, he started watching CBC as opposed to just westerns and stuff, and I really got myself educated that way. He told Pierre Berton on the latter's influential talk show in 1971. I think it was the same year Bruce Lee was on the Berton show. After studying sociology at U of T, he made his way to film school at UCLA, where he was a contemporary of Francis Ford Coppola, working as part of the crew on the future Godfather director's early foray, The Very Strange Dementia 13 in 1963. When he returned to Toronto and shot a series of documentaries of varying lengths for CBC and NFB, it was always with a focus on interesting stories and characters, from bikers in 1966 Satan's Choice, teachers in the following years of Search for Learning, and war veterans in 69's Good Times, Bad Times. Going Down the Road was made in part with a grant from the Canadian Film Development Corp. and was inspired in part by real stories. Shebib told the Halifax Chronicle Herald in 2011. I had a cousin who came to stay with us in Toronto in the late 50s, and he tried to make a go of it and couldn't, and went back to the Maritimes. Almost all of his vigorous and stinging story of the drifters and the dropouts when he came of age, the sad truth about that silent majority who believe in life's easy rides, Judith Cress wrote in New York Magazine. Shebib followed up on the big screen with the teen coming of age ripoff in 1971, another collaboration with Fruitt, and the heist film Between Friends in 1974. He did Hard Aches in 82 with Margot Kidder and Robert Carradine, was described by influential New York Times critic Vincent Canby as a sentimental romantic comedy that talks tough but means to break your heart with its sweetness. Now, the bulk of Shebib's work in the 80s and 90s was in TV. He directed numerous made-for-TV movies and helmed episodes of the series The Edison Twins, Danger Bay, Night Heat, E&G, and Wind on My Back. Now, admitting on CBC in 2011 that had been bugged by people since 1970 to revisit his most famous characters, Shebib finally did so with Down the Road again. The 2011 film was a poignant shoot. Joey's spectral presence was part of the plot, as Bradley had died in 2003, 2 years before cinematography Lederman passed away. Carol Charnine, reprising her 1970 role of Selena, was a cheerleader on the set, her colleagues unaware she had months left to live while battling terminal cancer. Now, with McBrath, Eastwood, and Sherman returning to join new castmate Kathleen Robertson of Beverly Hills 90210 fame, Down the Road Again kept the thread of its characters while changing the tone. The Toronto Star noted it was imbued with wisdom, heart, and good intentions. You know, it's a pretty good movie. I think you should check it out. Shebib's last film was the erotic thriller Night Talk. The film, which bowed at the Toronto Film Fest in 2022, was sparked by a conversation the filmmaker overheard in Edmonton. He told the CP, I'm listening to his exchange between two women that was so banal and silly. But it was real. Now, in addition to his son 40, who has produced several tracks for Drake and co-founded the Ovo record label, Shebib is survived by his spouse, the actress Teddy Moore, daughter Susanna, stepdaughter Zoe Chance, and several grandchildren. Now, Shebib was the son of Mary Alice Long, a Newfoundlander of Irish descent, and Moses Morris Shebib, born in Sydney in Nova Scotia in 1910, but part of Lebanese immigration to Nova Scotia in the early 1910s. He grew up in an economically precarious household and in a neighborhood where he felt he was an outsider. Growing up with a name like Shebib, very working class, being raised a Catholic in Orange, Ontario, conceding he probably took it more sensitively than he had to, adding that he was always shy in high school. I didn't know where I fit in. I grew up feeling pretty inferior. In a 2011 interview with Andrea Nemitz in the Chronicle Herald, Shebib said, I was aware of migratory experience, like the Okies in California, the Dust Bowl. I had a cousin who came to stay with us in Toronto in the late 50s, and he tried to make it go and couldn't, and went back to the Maritimes. That was, again, the inspiration. Now, he loved chestnuts or vintage films and sports. And when the family acquired their first TV set in 1952, but he was a movie snob. For a certain time, Shebib refused to watch any film made after 1940, well, for obvious reasons. 1939 was the best year in movie history. Now, he played semi-pro football as a young man and studied sociology at U of T. While very interested in sociological patterns from history, he did not enjoy reading enough to pursue these interests further academically, but was still looking for something to do that would appeal to his jock and artist impulses. Now, when he graduated from in '61 again, UCLA School of Theater, Film, and Television, where he gained early experience working on Roger Corman Productions, again Dimension 13. He also worked on The Terror in 1963. He also made his earlier short films. In '65, he graduated Master of Arts, but decided to return home rather than pursue a career in Hollywood. Now, over the next 5 years, he found his way into Canadian film industry and quickly established himself, and again, reflecting on a decision to return in 1970. There's more of a chance here. Now, the other documentaries for the CBC and also, well, the NFB and CTV television, his thesis was called The Duel in '62, Surf in '64, but the Satan's Choice was a very strong doc, if you can still find it. Now, the critical acclaim of going down the road was quite good. Now, when he finished Going Down the Road, he expressed a preference for making dramatic rather than doc films going forward, and directed a mix of commercial and unsuccessful genre films, beginning again with Rip Off and Between Friends, a somber story of a pair of aspiring surfers who plan a mining robbery in Northern Ontario that goes wrong. Shebib was one of 4 directors and many critics who felt the wrong film had won the Best Feature Film at the 25th Canadian Film Awards, which was already under pressure from a boycott of the awards by Quebec filmmakers. In its December '73 year in review, the Globe and Mail singled out the Canadian Film Award jury for a special Grand Prix for general all-around stupidity for the awards choice over 4 much stronger nominees. Worse still, the ceremony itself was cancelled and all the promotional planning along with it. Now, the award schedule for the following year were cancelled. It did not return until '75. Shebib did enter his next film, Second Wind, in '76 and won the award for Best Editing. Neither it nor Fish Hawk in '79 were commercial successes. He found success once again with Heartaches, described by Wyndham Wise as a variation of Going Down the Road with a pair of working-class women. Now, he also did feature films Running Brave, Change Your Heart, The Ascent, and of course, Going Down the Road. Now, in between The Ascent and Down the Road Again, Shebib said there had been little work, though he had written a few scripts. There was some talk of Shebib directing Rob Stefaniak in a film called Bart Fergo, an homage to Le Petit Mien in 2004-2005, but it's unclear as to whether it was made, completed, and released. In 2008, he was quoted saying that Canada was a great place to make our first film, but a hard place to keep things going. Now, Shebib's son, again, 40 Shebib, is the executive producer of his father's latest film, Night Talk, which stars Al Muqaddam, and it was in post-production as of February 2020. The film premiered at TIFF in September 2022. Now, the director's later TV work included By Reason of Insanity, Slim Obsession, both made for the CBC series For the Record and sold to overseas markets, and the TV movies The Climb, The Little Kidnappers, and The Pathfinder. In the 21st century, the Gilbert and Sullivan documentary A Song to Sing-O was well received. Now, other TV included Counter-Strike and the Zach Files. Now, in 1970, Shebib said his personal philosophy was influenced by TV and the Canadian media theorist Marshall McLuhan. Shebib also watched TCM religiously, and after John Ford, his favorite directors were Capra, Wellman, Hawks, Carnet, David Lean, especially his early stuff, and MFW Mumau. Sunrise is one of my favorite films. Now, Shebib basically was asked once about great filmmakers. He said, I don't know too much about Quebec. Obviously, Denis Arcand and Jutras and Jill Carroll are good filmmakers. In English Canada, I don't know whatever happened to Colin Lowe. He was a brilliant filmmaker, and Tom Daly was a very important film person, and Don Owen and myself. Now, a very, very strong influence on everybody involved. There's not one podcast could cover everything what he means to the film industry, because just like Bergman, just like Spielberg, just like John Ford, to have somebody like Don Shebib to lay the foundation, because cinema reality has been perfected by the Quebecers, but he pretty well started it to a level where everybody was recognizing. So Don Shebib, you will be missed, leaving a lot of people to mourn. But if you ever have a chance, go see Going Down the Road. No matter where you're from, there's a story to be told there.